The world of fashion is changing. The rise of the metaverse is forcing brands to find their place in a virtual first world, challenging the idea of clothing as a purely physical good. But as digital fashion dominates headlines, we ask, is this a trend that will soon fall out of style? Or will it forever change fashion as we know it?
Digital fashion is a means of iterating garments in the non-physical world. So for the Fabricant as a digital fashion house, we don't create anything physical whatsoever. All our garments are digital only and can be worn in virtual spaces only. We wanted to create a completely new industry with a completely different belief system to the physical fashion industry, which was very secretive and not particularly equitable in terms of participants. Maybe the brands and the big players saw all the financial gains, and not necessarily the younger creators.
From fast fashion retailers to luxury labels, the digital fashion floodgates are beginning to open. Brands like H&M, Adidas, and Balenciaga are all claiming their stake in the metaverse with the announcement of digital fashion collections. According to Morgan Stanley, digital demand for fashion and luxury brands is expected to reach $50 billion by 2030. But what will it take for everyday shoppers to see the value in these intangible outfits? We talked with Sophia Nygaard, a YouTuber with over 9 million subscribers, about her experience with digital fashion.
So I first encountered digital fashion in like a Facebook ad, actually, that was on my feed. And they were just advertising like, change your look with digital fashion. And so I just clicked in and I was like, this seems like fodder for content. There are some unique challenges when you're trying on digital fashion. One being that like you have to like pose and craft your picture without the clothes that you're going to be wearing, and then they apply the clothes to you. And it's a little bit, from my experience, hit or miss. Like there were some pieces that we got that I thought looked quite realistic and like looked pretty natural on me, or even if they were sort of avant-garde fashion pieces, looked kind of like I could possibly be wearing those things. For the pieces that ended up looking good, when we posted those, not telling people they were digital clothing, people liked those. But when it came to actually being confronted with the idea of like digital fashion is a thing and people are paying money for virtual clothes, people seem to have a lot of pushback against that idea.
To help put some of the skepticism to rest, we decided to go behind the scenes to see how a digital fashion piece is actually developed.
The past couple of years, digital fashion progressed dramatically, and now there is special software that lets you create garments, and that also lets you see how the fabric gonna be behaving on the person. I started with the concept, with the idea for the design, eventually go into sketching, and eventually you move that to a 3D program. And then that rendered version you can combine with the photo in post-production, basically in Photoshop.
I'll change the lens and I'm going to spin it over there. But I do like it.
Right now, digital fashion is very niche in a way in terms of people who create in that and in terms of people who buy in that. But there are ways to bring digital fashion in the production process. And that's where I see the big companies stepping in, like big retailers or big fashion brands. As of right now, the process of creating a garment in real life, it's pretty elaborate. There are many resources involved. It is gonna cut the costs and it's gonna cut the time. So I definitely see that it's gonna be more integrated in B2B world rather than direct to consumer.
When you look around at the brands that are taking part, it's very interesting to see lots of them are in the luxury world, like the Balenciaga and the Gucci's of this world. But for it to really take hold, it will require high street brands that speak to like the everyday consumer to really begin to participate. And we are seeing that now. We are seeing the Nikes of this world, put digital sneakers and things out there.
It seems to me right now that digital fashion is most well suited to Instagrammers or people who like post photos for a living, who might be the type of people who do only like rent or borrow or buy an outfit just for a photo shoot?
Obviously, there's this very unsustainable narrative around influencers right now in the physical world, receiving garments for a one-off image, and then they're cast aside, So clearly, non-physical fashion doesn't require carbon downloads of pieces of fabric being flown across the planet, delivery trucks, all of that stuff, all of those parts of the supply chain that we're aware of physical fashion. So even before the garments end up in the consumer's hands, there's a big reduction in the planetary impact.
From cutting down production time to saving environmental resources, digital fashion has the potential to solve some of the industry's biggest challenges. It may even open the door for a new generation of digital-first designers.
What's exciting about the space we're trying to enable is this democratic fashion industry. And right now on the planet, there will be a kid somewhere with a device, a laptop or a mobile phone and a Wi-Fi connection that is dying to become a digital fashion designer. And they can have a community and a network of supporters and build a brand from the ground up just by creating digitally. So it's going to be really interesting to see the balance of big brands in the space versus complete newbies who just have an instinctive understanding of the digital space because it's the world that they've grown up in. So I think that's really exciting.
Unless we're gonna stop wearing clothes in real life, digital fashion not gonna substitute or replace physical fashion. But you can just buy a couple of black t-shirts, own one pair of jeans, and wear that for the rest of your life. So in that regard, we shouldn't be separating digital fashion from physical fashion because it does serve the same purpose and it's actually expressing yourself.